Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos, Nigeria. September 19, 2020. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, will conduct governorship election in Edo State in Nigeria's South-South region. It will be the Commission's first major election in the COVID-19 pandemic period. Although INEC conducted a by-election yesterday in Nasarawa State, a test case for how elections can be safely conducted during the coronavirus era. But perhaps far beyond the fear of coronavirus is the threat of violence in elections. A drumbeat we are hearing loudly from the South-South state of Edo, but INEC has warned that should any of such happen, there will be consequence as much as cancelling the exercise. INEC is also planning something totally different from the manner in which it collates results, and today we'll be asking how the umpire hopes to go about all of these. I'm now being joined on the program by INEC's National Commissioner on Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Many thanks for coming on tonight, Mr. Okoye. Thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts. Let's begin the conversation by asking you, the Commission did say that election of Nasarawa, the by-election, will be a test case for conducting elections going forward for INEC in the pandemic, in the COVID-19 pandemic. But essentially, what did you discover from that exercise of yesterday?
Well, we had certain benchmarks relating to the conduct of the Nasarawa Central State constituency election. We wanted to see whether the voters will comply with the whole issue of social distancing or physical distancing. We wanted to see whether they will comply with the compulsory use of face mask or face covering. We also wanted to see how our ad hoc staff comply with the whole issue of hand sanitizers and using methylated spirit to clean the face of the smart card reader. And it was a learning curve for us, and it's very clear to us that a lot of Nigerians understand the challenges of conducting election under this very unusual period. So we did very well. We had slight challenges with the issue of physical distancing. But in some of the polling units, the presiding officers were very proactive and even drew lines on the floor to demarcate the places where the voters will stand. But in a few of the polling units, people simply ignore the issue of physical distancing. So we have taken that particular lesson on board, and we are going to meet within the next few days to review the conduct of the Nasarawa Central State constituency elections. But on the whole, I think that we provided all the pharmaceutical things we were supposed to provide, and the election went very well.
For some reasons, I'll come back to that election of yesterday and what this means for your plan ahead of the Edo governorship election. It does look like INEC is mostly concerned about conducting the election itself, other than the processes leading to the election. When you're planning for election in this COVID period, you've released guidelines on doing that. But are you worried about how campaigns are being conducted without consideration or adherence to the COVID-19 procedures?
Yes, the commission is concerned. And we had advised the political parties to also draw up their own protocols for conducting campaigns and rallies under this unusual circumstance. And the political parties are also aware that they have an obligation and a responsibility to adhere to the protocols issued by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. They also know that the various state governments have their own quarantine laws, which they ought to comply with. So we are very, very concerned because we do not want this type of disregard to physical and social distancing to be transported to the election day itself. Because if the political parties do not have regard for all the protocols that have been issued by the various health authorities in their campaigns. On election day, they may also want to carry that type of behavior to the polling units, and we are not going to accept that type of behavior. So we have learned valuable lessons from the elections we conducted in Nasarawa yesterday, and we are going to re-strategize on how to enforce the issue of physical distancing. And we are going to do this in conjunction with the various security agencies that will complement the efforts of the Commission during the Edo and Ondo governorship election.
Mr. Okoye, is INEC the statutory body saddled with the responsibility of monitoring campaigns?
Yes, we monitor political campaigns, but on the whole, it is the responsibility of political parties to conduct their campaigns in a manner that does not endanger public health and public safety. Now, one of the things we have been asked to monitor, one of the things we look out for, is whether campaigns are conducted in a violent manner. We want to see whether people are allowed to go to the campaign rallies and campaign venues with dangerous weapons. We want to see and know whether people are using slanderous language or base language, or language that has the capacity to inflame passion, or language that has the capacity to inflame ethnic and religious tension. So we monitor some of these things, and also we see whether they are complying with some of these health protocols. But other than that, when crimes are committed, or when electoral offenses are committed at the level of political party rallies and campaigns, is the responsibility of the security agencies to enforce the law. The Commission does not have its own police force. And the Commission does not have its own security agencies.
Mr. Okoye, apologies to cut in. Fundamentally, you have the prerogative, the statutory power to monitor campaigns at INEC. But in the basics of it, looks like if the political parties are not adhering to the guidelines and the rules of the game, would you allow such political party to go ahead in their campaign?
No, the rules of campaigns and the rules of rallies are both constitutional and statutory. Political parties have the right to exist. They have the right to freedom of association. They have the right to freedom of expression. So to that particular extent, they have the right to meet. Now, they also have the right to campaign, but the law has made provision on the things that they can do at their campaign rallies and the things that they cannot do. So it is our responsibility to monitor some of these campaigns, and if we feel very, very strongly that a political party has fallen off the radar, or a political party is doing something that is untoward, we will document such activities and such actions, and then forward to the security agencies. It's now left for the security agencies to enforce the law in terms of conducting investigation, and also in terms of prosecuting the political parties or the candidate or the aspirant or their supporters before a properly constituted court of law.
Because I remember having the conversation with you, Mr. Okoye, on the guidelines of conducting elections. Elections is a process, not an event. So there are events leading to an election. So campaigns and rallies are part of an election process. So when we had this conversation, you were very strict with your language at the time that if any political party does not fall in line with the procedure, you will come down on them. Are you saying that the law does not permit you to, for example, stop a political party campaign when they look so much, for example, that they are putting the lives of citizens or the lives of their supporters at risk with the manner in which they are conducting their campaign?
You have to look at the whole issue within a particular context. Now, for instance, Edo State and Ondo States, they have laws regulating the conduct of individuals and the conduct of groups during this pandemic period. And these laws are enforceable by the various state governments. So if a political party in conducting rallies and conducting campaigns falls foul of the law, it is the responsibility of the state government and is the responsibility of the security agencies to enforce the state law. Now, we also have the different regulations and the different guidelines relating to the conduct of rallies, campaigns, and the conduct of individuals and groups during this particular period. If a political party falls short of those ones, it is not the responsibility of the Independent National Electoral Commission to arrest, investigate, and prosecute. There are agencies and commissions that are statutorily saddled with this particular responsibility. Our responsibility is to document some of these issues, and if we feel very, very strongly that a political party is doing things that has the capacity to jeopardize the political process, we will make a formal report to the security agencies, and it is left for the security agencies to take it from there.
So what has been your, since from what you're telling Nigerians, Mr. Okoye, it does look like you're telling us that your power according to the Constitution and the law is just to monitor. You don't have power to sanction. So far, from the campaigns that we have seen, have the political parties adhered to the guidelines?
From what we have documented so far and from what we are seeing, some of the political parties in their rallies and their campaigns have no regard whatsoever to the issue of physical distancing and the issue of even wearing face masks during their rallies. And some of the campaigns have also been tainted with a language, with base language, with slanderous language, with intemperate language, capable of inflaming passion. And there have also been threats of violence and the use of force in this election. What we intend to do and what we are going forward to do, we want to be inclusive and we want to be consultative. We are going to meet with the candidates themselves. We are going to meet with the political parties. We are going to meet with the campaign councils. We are going to meet with the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. And we are going to meet with the different religious and traditional institutions to give them the information at our disposal and to tell them the consequences of proceeding in a manner that jeopardizes the peace and security of the state and the challenges of going ahead with an election where the lives of ad hoc staff and where the lives of the voters will be jeopardized. The political parties know what the consequences are, and they know that as a regulatory agency that is saddled with the responsibility of organizing and conducting elections and superintending elections, that we have the power to make sure that nobody jeopardizes the lives of those we are going to deploy to go and conduct this election.
The commission, I mean, you released a statement last week, Mr. Okoye. And before I go into the details of some of the things that you said, particularly, you said, and I quote here, consequently, you said in the second paragraph that the last line of the second paragraph that the commission will not shirk its responsibility to enforce the rules of the game. Consequently, parties and candidates must on no account underestimate the result of the commission to enforce the rules and regulations and apply appropriate sanctions against those who choose to break them. That means, from that statement, Mr. Okoye, that means INEC has the power to sanction. But for those who you just said that some of these political parties do not have respect for social distancing. That means they are disobeying the rules and the guidelines guiding this election. Are you going to put down your sanctions on them?
The commission has powers under the law and under the Constitution and under our regulations and our guidelines. And that's why I'm telling you, we are going to, in the next week or two, we are going to meet with the leaders of these political parties. We are going to meet with their campaign councils. We are going to meet with all the critical stakeholders in this electoral process. And we are going to draw the line that they cannot cross. And we are going to make it very clear to them that if they cross a certain line, the commission will come down heavily on them. Now, the challenge here is that, and I've pointed it out, the conduct of end of tenure elections has a very limited and strict constitutional timeline. And the moment you fall off that particular timeline, it creates its own big challenges. And we are saying that, look, under Section 178, subsection 2 of the Constitution, we have limited period within which to conduct this election. And we must conduct the elections and announce a winner on or before the 13th day of October 2020. If we announce a winner on the 14th, or if we conduct election on the 14th of October, we have fallen off the constitutional radar. And whatever we do is null and void. So they must understand this very clearly. Secondly, if something happens and this election is postponed, the Speaker cannot take over, because under Section 191 of the Constitution, the Speaker can only take over a power to complete the unexpired residue of the term of office of the last holder of the office. The term of office of the governor of Edo State will expire on the 11th day of November 2020. On the 11th day of November 2020, even if the Speaker has taken over, he must also vacate office, because he can only conclude the unexpired residue of the term of office. Now, the second provision is Section 180 of the Constitution, which says that the president can step in and extend the tenure of the incumbent by a period of 6 months if the country is at war, in which the territory of Nigeria is physically attacked. I do not think that Nigeria is at war, and I don't think that any territory of Nigeria has been attacked. So that particular provision does not avail us. The only remaining provision is Section 305 of the Constitution, which says that you can declare a state of emergency under certain conditions, and the president can, through a proclamation, state what is going to happen with the concurrence of the National Assembly. We do not want to get into all this, because that will lead Nigeria into a constitutional crisis, and you can never tell. If there's a constitutional crisis in one state, it may boil over to another state, and we don't want to get to that particular curve. So political parties should know all this and know that we also have the power not to proceed with this election if we perceive that violence will take over this election, because the life of a core member who is serving his nation as a presiding officer cannot be covered by any form of insurance, and no form of compensation can make up for the death of even a single individual. So we are not going to risk the lives of young men and women that we are going to deploy just on the basis of the desperation of certain political interests and certain political forces. So they know all this, and we are going to make it very clear to them that we have the power to put our feet down and not go ahead with this election if they continue in the manner they are going.
All right. So you have said it clearly about the resolve of INEC to discontinue the process should violence erupt or go on. But with the issue of the Oba Palace violence that we saw, the issue of the alleged assassination attempt, the incident at the House of Assembly, the issue of billboards that have been destroyed, has the commission gotten to that point where you think the violence or the kind of incidents that are trailing up to the election is unbearable?
No. We are going to, in the next week or two, we are going to meet with all these interests. As I pointed out, we are going to meet with the candidates, we are going to meet with the political parties, we are going to meet with their campaign councils, we are going to also meet with the traditional and religious institutions, and we are going to lay down and give the parties an opportunity to pull back. If, after giving them opportunity to pull back from what they are doing, they persist in what they are doing, then the commission will meet as a commission and then take a decision on whether we will proceed with the election or whether we are not going to proceed with the election.
Will it be fair to discontinue the process? For example, I think we have about 18 or 19 political parties in this election. If one or two political parties are engaging in violence, would it be fair to discontinue the process because of 2 out of 18 political parties?
No, the violence we are talking about will be the type of violence that puts people on edge, that puts fear in the minds of the people, the type of violence that is cogent and verifiable, that everybody can see and be sure that the peace and security of the state is being threatened. It's not if there's a violence in maybe a particular war that the security agencies have been able to contain such violence that we are going to call off the election. No. It is the type of violence I'm talking about and the type of issues that will lead us not to proceed with the election must be so serious that no regulatory agency or no regulatory commission, what is sought, will move into such a place to go and conduct election when it is completely unsafe to conduct election. We are determined to conduct this election. And so some of these things these political parties are doing, thinking that the commission will be scared into moving to go and conduct this election. The commission is not scared. We are going to strategize with the security agencies, and we are going to move in and make sure
All right.
That the people of Edo State and the people of Ondo State are given the choice to exercise their sovereign right to choose whoever they want to choose. So we are determined to proceed with this election.
All right.
But so if we encounter the type of violence that is unbearable, the type of violence that will make it completely impossible to conduct anything called election, we will pull out.
Okay, so we'll take a break, but when we come back, I'll be asking you, Mr. Okoye, because you said that you have created a result portal for the Edo election. Is that constitutional? Does it meet the requirement of the Electoral Act? We'll be engaging Mr. Okoye on that plan. And the issue, you remember, of 2019 election, of the issue of the server. There are so many issues on the table. When we return, we conclude our conversation with Mr. Okoye. Well, we take a break, and up next, the Deputy Governor of Edo State alleges threats to his life. We discuss some of the issues thrown up in the governorship race in Edo State. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. But don't forget to let us know what your views are on the issues we're discussing tonight on the program. Tutors on these handles you see there on your screen. Or if you want to write us some lengthy note, you can write to our email, politicstoday@channelstv.com. So let's get back to the conversation with the INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education and publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Okoye, for your time tonight. So part of the statement you released on Friday was the fact that INEC has introduced what you call the election result viewing portal. Does the Electoral Act permit INEC to do that?
The moment elections are over at a polling unit, the presiding officer enters the scores of the candidates from EC8A. And then the presiding officer signs, the party agent sign, and then the presiding officer takes that particular document together with the party agents and the observers and heads to the collation center. So the results, as the procedure and process as prescribed under the Electoral Act is manual. Now, what the Commission is doing is that we do not want to be caught unawares. We don't want a situation where the Electoral Act or the Constitution will be amended or altered tomorrow, and then we'll be caught napping in terms of the fact that we didn't prepare. What we have done is simply to upload from EC8A into a dedicated portal for the public to see what transpired at the polling unit in relation to the results. And this is just to guarantee a sense of transparency and also to give people a best eye view of what happens at the polling unit. So we are looking for ways and means of guaranteeing transparency and also guaranteeing the fact that the people should participate in what goes on at the polling units. We didn't transmit any results. We only simply uploaded the result for public viewing and for research purposes and for purposes of piloting some of the things we want to deploy in the election and also in subsequent elections. So we comply with the law by transmitting the results manually, but we also have the capacity and the wherewithal to pilot certain things and also to test run certain things that we intend to deploy in future elections.
So where is this portal? Is this portal on the INEC website?
I'm not too ICT savvy. All I know is that we created a portal and presiding officers uploaded from EC8A into that particular portal, and we released the URL through which any person who is interested can view these results publicly. So we did everything transparently, and as 3 hours to the end of pool, over 700 individuals had already logged in, and we are viewing what we were doing. And it was really exciting and very innovative and creative.
So, but you don't know the details yet, so that, for example, I can check it. Is it on your website, or where exactly is it?
No, you can. We released all the details through which you can log in publicly, and over 700 persons logged in as 3 hours before the close of poll. So if you log in using the steps we enunciated in that particular release, you will just simply get into the result portal and see what happened yesterday.
But can that portal be a legal instrument? Let me read to you the Electoral Act as amended, Section 71, which talked about the posting of result. The Electoral Act states, and I quote now, the commission shall cause to be posted on its notice board and website a notice showing the candidates at the election and their scores and the person declared as elected or returned at the election. But transmitting it on that portal, because the Electoral Act, that's why I was asking, is it on your website? Because the Electoral Act recognizes your website, and can it be used as a legal instrument? The Form EC8 is a legal instrument.
Look, we did not post the declaration and the results of the election. The commission, we did not, it is the returning officer for the election that does the final collation and makes a declaration and returns somebody as having been properly elected. It is that one that is posted on the INEC website, and that one is the one that is legal. What we normally do is that we post what we call the people's resources at the polling unit. And every presiding officer is under an obligation to post from EC60E at the polling unit. So that is what we uploaded. What we uploaded are the scores of the candidates, and not the results as declared by the presiding officer. It is that result as declared by the presiding officer that is supposed to be on our website and is supposed to be the legal instrument. We only uploaded results for public viewing, for people to see, the scores of candidates, for people to see what went on at the polling units. And I think that the commission should be commended for this particular innovation, which has guaranteed some level of transparency and some level of participation of the people in what goes on at the polling units.
So let's quickly wrap up our conversation, and I have two issues to raise before we conclude. There are concerns about security, and allegations are that security are taking sides already in the process leading to the election. I remember vividly, after the Kogi and Bayelsa election, INEC came forward to say security was the vulnerable leg of that election. Have you devised a means by which to curtail this vulnerable point that the INEC chairman raised, that security, or some of the security agencies were the problem in Kogi and Bayelsa states?
We reviewed the elections in Kogi and we reviewed the elections in Bayelsa, and we've had dialogue with the various security agencies under the auspices of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. And we have drawn up a revised code of conduct for the conduct of security personnel deployed for election duty. And we have been meeting, we've been reviewing the situation. We've received the reports from the Commissioner of Police Edo State and the Commissioner of Police Ondo State. And in the coming days, we are still going to convene a meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to review the security situation in both states and then take proactive measures to make sure that we degrade to the barest minimum acts of violence and acts capable of threatening the smooth conduct of the elections. So we are looking at the situation, and we are not glossing over anything. We are looking at everything holistically, and we are going to take a very concrete and formidable position that will enable us to move into Edo State and conduct elections and let the will of the people prevail.
So let's finalize this conversation on this note. How much will the Edo State governorship election cost INEC?
Honestly, if I tell you that I can off-head give you that particular figure, I don't think I will be fair. If you want that particular figure, I need to get back to the finance department and then try to find out from maybe National Commissioner in charge of planning and monitoring and the National Commissioner in charge of electoral operations to get the figure. I don't have the figure off-head, but the figure is within the range with which we conduct governorship elections, but I don't have the figure off-head.
What range is that? Can you tell us at what range?
Honestly, I cannot tell you off-head. But I can find out. I promise I can find out if you want the figure. It's in the public domain, and there's nothing to hide. I can find out, and then maybe if we have a subsequent program, I can give you the figure and give the Nigerian people the figure.
So briefly, if you can also tell us, has the COVID-19 situation jacked up the cost of conducting election, especially in Edo State?
My answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we now have to provide face masks for our ad hoc staff. We now have to provide hand sanitizers. We have to provide methylated spirit. And we have to observe social distancing in terms of the number of buses we hire and other things we do. No, in the sense that there are some certain things that we can no longer do physically. Some of our meetings are now done virtually, in which case we are saving the cost of air transportation and so on and so forth, and the cost of hotel bills. So some of the costs that we are saving from air transportation and from some other things are pulled into the issue of providing pharmaceutical interventions in this particular election. But I want to say that the COVID-19 has created challenges for us and jacked up just a little bit the cost of conducting elections.
Mr. Festus Okoye, National Commissioner of INEC in charge of publicity and voter education at INEC. Thank you so much for talking to us. We created this enough time so that you can educate voters in Edo and across the country about INEC's plan. For a lot of people who are asking, like I asked earlier, on where to get this result, you can check it out by yourself, and it's going to be on Channels Television's website also, the information for you after this program, as released by INEC. The portal is www.inecelectionresults.com. www.inecelectionresults.com. There is procedure for you. After this program, you will get more on Channels Television's website. Thank you so much. So let's stay on the politics of Edo State and the campaign issues ahead of the governorship election. Well, yesterday, the APC held its major campaign where governors and leaders of the APC stormed Benin City, the capital of Edo State. That was the event at the campaign of the APC when the party launched its rally. And on Friday, a day before that, some PDP women took to the streets of Benin City to protest the crisis rocking the House of Assembly. One of the issues we're going to take up tonight on the program. But again, on Saturday, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shuaibu, alleges assassination attempt on his life. Take a listen to him.
We have intelligence that some individuals are in Edo State, and their assignment is to come and assassinate some known individuals in the state. So I'm hereby bringing to the notice of the general public that these people are in town, and we've communicated to the security agencies about the activities and why they are in town.
So the candidate of the APC, Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu, is more confident about one thing, and that he made very clear at that rally. You earlier saw some of the sound bites earlier on the program. So let me allow you to listen to one of those things that Pastor Ize-Iyamu said at that rally.
My job is just to thank our national leaders for coming to identify with us.
Thank you.
With the people you have seen with me today, can anybody say we are in opposition?
No.
Can anybody say that we'll be intimidated?
No.
Who gonna win the election? Who gonna win the election?
There are several issues raised from the statement made by the APC national leader Bola Tinubu on the crisis rocking the assembly and the rumor of a planned impeachment of the governor. So much to talk about tonight. Let's get to it quickly, everyone. I have joining me from our Abuja studio, a political affairs advisor to the governor, Governor Obaseki. I have Adaze Mwanta from our Abuja studio, and from Benin City. I also have joining me the spokesperson of the APC in Benin City. Thank you, in Edo State. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let's begin the conversation, and perhaps I should start with you, the APC Publicity Secretary. You heard what the Deputy Governor said, that the plan to assassinate him, that a plan to cause violence in the state. How's your party handling these allegations? Which, of course, you saw where the accusing finger is pointing at.
The APC, we have decided that we will not join issues with either Governor Obaseki or Felix Shaibu on a low pedestal. You see, you do not go making allegations of a planned assassination lightly. That is a capital offense when you plan to kill somebody. One would expect that when Felix Shaibu went on air to say that certain individuals were in Edo State to assassinate known individuals within their political group, he should have named names. By the time you go on air to say somebody is planning to assassinate you and you know they are in town, then one would expect that you have evidence of their identity. And he did not say anything to that effect. So we view that kind of assertion as very, very irresponsible, coming from the sitting deputy governor of a state.
Mr. Adaze Mwanta, how do you react to that kind of statement? You heard what the INEC National Commission said about the issues of violence and how INEC is going to handle such.
You know, it's quite unfortunate that we have what is close to a state of anarchy in Edo, and this is because of the desperation of Oshomole to continue as the godfather of Edo politics. Remember sometime last year when the Oba of Lagos visited during the convocation of Edo State University at Iyamo, see how the governor's convoy was attacked. It was on the same program. Unfortunately, when the PDP campaign council came to pay their customary visits to the Oba, you saw how they were attacked. Even a non-thug in Benin, Tony Kabaka, came all out in a viral video to admit that he was there and that he was the one that mobilized those thugs there. They were gunshots. So we cannot continue like this. It is for the Inspector General of Police to activate the constitutional powers conferred on him. Not like what the Attorney General told him to give support to 14 members whose seats were declared vacant. That is not how to run the democracy. The issue of violence in the democracy is totally unacceptable. And that's why I want to join my voice to that of the Deputy Governor. Those persons that Oshomole has imported from Kogi to foment trouble in Edo, to foment trouble as we move into this election, there's need for the security agencies to rein in the authority, to rein in, whatever they can do to put these people to check. The invasion of the Edo State House of Assembly is nothing short of treason. And I think all the culprits must be brought to justice.
Mr. Asamoah, react to what Mr. Mwanta has just said. He's made very strong allegations in the last few seconds about your party and some personalities in your party.
You see, what has become very apparent? What has become very apparent is what Mr. Adaze Mwanta has just reiterated. The PDP has no substance to campaign with. So anytime they gather, either in a rally or they are making any pronouncement, they're either abusing Comrade Adams Oshomole or abusing Pastor Sage Ize-Iyamu or preaching violence. Now, if you look at the trend, if you look at the history of what has happened in the political terrain in Edo State, taking from the inauguration, the proclamation of the House of Assembly, the members that were not sworn in were attacked in a hotel. Now, the convocation of Edo University that he referred to, the APC supporters did not carry out the attack. It was Felix Shaibu who was on a bike that mobilized motorcycle riders from Uzaire that actually caused mayhem at the convocation of Edo University on that occasion. So all they do from all Obaseki and Shaibu have been doing is to pass the buck. They instigate violence, they preach violence. There's nothing they have not done. On national television, on several cases, you have heard Mr. Governor Obaseki, saying that it's only him and Shaibu that have immunity. And because of that, that they can unleash mayhem on Edo citizens and the members of APC, and nothing will happen. So it is being economical with the truth when they try to pass the buck. It is actually a PDP that has been preaching violence. All they do is say...
Is there any truth, Mr. Asamoah, on a possible plan for impeachment from your side?
No. You see, all we are busy doing in APC is selling our simple agenda to Edo people, because we have concrete plans of what we want to do when we come into office, November 12th. And so while we are busy selling our manifesto, the simple agenda, because PDP does not have any agenda, they do not have a manifesto. And so they are dealing in personalities. All they do is focus on, the personalities in APC, because they do not have anything to offer Edo people. So we are not going to allow them to distract us.
No, but Mr. Asamoah, I wanted to... I'm saying, is there any plan from your party for any impeachment? Just a moment, if I may throw the question in just a moment, Mr. Chris. Is your party planning impeachment after the inauguration that we saw of those 17 people and what the alleged impeachment of the speaker?
No, we are not planning to impeach Mr. Governor. How would it add value to the process? It will not add value to the process. We have nothing to gain by impeaching Mr. Governor. In any case, he's on his way out of office, by the popular will of Edo people. How many months does he have left in office? So why would we want to put ourselves to the trouble of going through the rigor, the inconvenience, the costly exercise of undertaking an impeachment exercise? It doesn't make sense.
All right. So let me allow your friend, Mr. Adazi Mwanta, to react to some of these issues that you have raised. And I'd like Mr. Adazi also to touch on the comment by the national leader of the APC. Part of what he said, and I quote him, he said, the recent actions of the governor of Edo State represent the gravest possible assault on constitutional democracy and the rule of law and escalation of violence and tension in the state he purports to govern. He made this allegation in that statement. He said, first, he sponsors hoodlums to the face, indeed destroy parts of the House of Assembly building in Benin, failing the building is undergoing renovation. React to that and some of what Mr. Asamoah said.
It clearly shows the role of Tinubu in all of this, because when the Oba of Lagos was attacked, it was part of the persons whose convoy was attacked in Iyamo, Tinubu was quiet. But it was only when Oshomole was to be removed as chairman, we started hearing crying blue murder. And for him to even refer to the governor of Edo State as a person responsible shows his level of complicity. Just few hours after he made that statement, Obasa, who is the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, purporting to be the spokesperson of the Conference of Speakers, told the line of Tinubu. The truth is, Edo is not Lagos. Tinubu cannot excise Edo. We are not a vassal. Edo can never be a vassal of Tinubu. And the truth of the matter is this. You have 12 members who refuse to present themselves for inauguration. And of course, the constitution is clear. Section 109, sub 1F says when a member absents himself for 1/3 of the period he has to sit, such a seat without just cause, because the issue of just cause was resolved by the judgment of the Federal High Court that says that the proclamation issued by the governor was in order, and that was where the buck stopped for the governor. So if these members refuse to take up their seats, and their seats have been declared vacant, nobody can blame that on the governor. For over 1 year, they were in Abuja, Oshomole calmed them, and beyond that, the matter is in court. The failure of us to come to a point to ask, have they withdrawn this matter? The answer is no. The fact that these same persons who are in court decided to invade the house, though unsuccessfully, and now had to go to a private residence, the president of Ize-Iyamu. Unfortunately, they even met just last Friday in another residence. So they are moving like nomads from residence to residence, holding what I can best describe as a fellowship in a pastor's residence. This is what they have reduced democracy in Nigeria to be. It's very unfortunate because at a point where a lawyer can give directives to the Attorney General, and in turn the Attorney General gives directives to the police, it shows we don't have democratic institutions that are functional. Democracy is built on public trust. If we have a House of Assembly and its affairs is invaded, and the president is quiet as commander-in-chief, the Attorney General was complicit, it shows that we are descending into a banana republic, and we must condemn this in the strongest of terms.
But what evidence do you have, Mr. Mwanta? Mr. Mwanta, what evidence do you have as to the case of the involvement of the Attorney General, which you have mentioned? Do you have any evidence to that?
No, it's very clear because the person who claims is Speaker Edoro said that it was on the strength of the letter written by the Attorney General, and we have seen the Attorney General's letter where he clearly stated that West Idahosa, a lawyer, requested that they needed some police to escort these members for the inauguration. But unfortunately, they abused the process in trying to invade the House. The reason for that was for them to go before the constitutionally elected Speaker, Frank Okiye, who remains the Speaker of the Edo State House of Assembly. The Constitution is very clear on the condition for you to take up your seat. Section 94 says, first and foremost, you must do your asset declaration. Secondly, you present your asset declaration form together with your certificate of return to the clerk, which you have not done. They even went as far as getting a retired deputy clerk from retirement. They assumed this man from retirement, went to a private residence, and acted what I can best describe as a Nollywood play. I mean, this is what they have made the democracy to be. The idea is to create a constitutional crisis in Edo so that there will be a state of emergency for us not to have elections. They know Edo people have rejected them because the governor has the overwhelming support of Edo people. And if Buhari wants democracy to work in Nigeria, he has to wade in his authority as commander-in-chief. He must restore law and order because we have always had peace, but Oshomole is bent on installing his own governor, and that if that person does not emerge, no other person can be governor of Edo State. And this is not acceptable in a democracy. This is not what Abiola died for. This is not what Kudirat Abiola died for. This is not a democracy Rewane died for, or even Ket Sarowiwa. This is not democracy. Even the military did not get to this level. This was what cost Nigeria the First Republic, the same parliamentary crisis in the Western region. And it was instigated by an opinion by the then Attorney General. So we have to be very careful because history is about repeating itself. And if we allow this to happen, it therefore means that when there's a takeover of the federal government, I wonder who will cry blue mother at that time. The international community is watching, Nigerians are watching. And this must not be allowed to happen, especially during the time of a pandemic. There are more pressing issues. If there's violence in Edo, it will affect Nigeria because Edo is at the center of Nigeria.
All right, so you've had your time. Let's allow Mr. Asamoah also to come in. But I'll allow you, Mr. Chris, to react to what Mr. Adazi has said. But let me show you quickly some of the pictures of your campaign. I will show the same of their own campaign to Mr. Adazi. The campaign of yesterday, the launch of the APC campaign of yesterday, it does look like your party and some of the leaders who came around were very happy with the turnout of some of your supporters. And Mr. Chris, some of their leaders are saying that it does look for them like a vote from the people. Is this kind of gathering a show of popularity of your party and your candidate?
You have actually said it, Sheun. You see, for us in Edo State, particularly in the APC political family, we have said that the POI agenda is grassroots movement. We are in touch with the people. We have a manifesto that is simple to read, simple to understand, and we have been able to sell it to our people. So what you saw yesterday was mainly a manifestation of the grassroots swell that has been taking place in Edo State. As I said earlier, we are issue-based. We are carrying out an issue-based campaign. We will not dwell on personalities. We will not smear mud on anybody. So that was why I told you earlier on that we have no interest in impeaching Mr. Governor. Now, Mr. Emata is being merely an alarmist. In whose interest would the constitutional crisis work best? Those of us who we know that Edo people are solidly behind, or they in PDP that know that the people have rejected them. So we have nothing to gain by instigating a constitutional crisis. We want this election more than anything else to take place because it will be an affirmation of the acceptance and the acceptability of APC as a political party, of Pastor Osagie Ize-Iyamu as a candidate and flag bearer. So we will not do, and in fact, we will go out of our way. We will bend over backwards to ensure that we toe the path of peace. That is why we have resisted every form of provocation that PDP, Governor Obaseki, and Philip Shaibu have tried to throw in our path. We will not take the bait. We are not going to bite. We will not play by their rules. We will not be distracted. We are going to remain focused and ensure that come September 19th, we will win the elections fairly, squarely, transparently, and Edo people will know that we were freely accepted and our mandate was given to us by Edo people. That is the way to go.
Let me allow Mr. Adaze to respond to that. Do you believe that rallies and campaigns, that the turnout at campaigns are the true representation of popularity of candidates and their political parties? Let me show you, like I did to Mr. Chris. That is a rally of the PDP. Mr. Chris seems to be confident. What do you have to say as regarding turnout at this kind of campaigns, especially compared to the APC that we saw yesterday?
It's so easy to talk about campaigns, rallies, and you now ask yourself, behind whom, between Ize-Iyamu and Godwin Obaseki, have the people lined up? Of course, it is Godwin Obaseki, because it was the same way he defeated Ize-Iyamu in 2016 that the people have agreed that they are going to renew his social contract come September 19th. Of course, the governor has a very clear mandate, and he has delivered on that mandate. And that's why we have a clear agenda, making Edo great. Unlike Ize-Iyamu, who operates with Don Pedro's simple agenda, he was in government for 8 years. There's nothing to show for it. The beauty of our campaigns flow from the infrastructural advancement that the governor has brought in power, education, health, sports. Just name it, it cuts across. And Edo people are very pleased. Pensioners no longer down the street. The public service revolutionized, the educational sector transformed. So it is easy for us on a democratic platform come 19 September that the governor, of course, will be elected by Edo people. It is very clear. And that is why they are creating crisis where there's actually peace in Edo. They go in, invade the assembly. They are not successful. They create a parallel government, and that is the idea. They want a state of emergency. But what the governor wants is for us to have this democratic process of one man, one vote. He has been able to defeat Agberos, he has defeated CDAs, he has even defeated the Godfather, and that's why the Godfather is fighting back. You know, when you fight Godfatherism, it does one thing, it fights back. But the people will tell the Godfather, come September 19th, that they are the ones that lead, and that is where sovereignty belongs, to the people. And that is what the governor stands for. He's a movement. And come September 19th, Edo people will renew their social contract with their governor. Thank you.
Adaze Emwanta, advisor to Governor Obaseki on political affairs. Thank you so much indeed for coming. And Mr. Chris Zamwanwen is the publicity secretary of the APC in Edo State. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for reacting and commenting on some of these issues that have been thrown up in the race. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the Sunday.